All right, I meant to do this review yesterday, but I decided I'll just do it in the morning, do it before I go to work. And there's a couple things I do want to mention just going into this chapter. There's two specific things I'm going to talk about that's in relation to Eden Zero, but not directly Eden Zero. The first one I just want to go over is, if you enjoy Eden Zero content, because I know there's not a lot of Eden Zero creators currently, you can go check out Quan Credible's channel. He's been started to do Eden Zero content. He's got a couple of reviews. He's thinking about doing, expanding out more into, like theories and maybe like videos on Ether Gear and the planets when I've been talking to him a little bit about it. And if you're really interested in content like that, I would suggest going and giving him a go check out his channel, give him a subscribe. And just because after his review of this chapter, because I didn't agree with him on his take on this one specifically, because I agree with him for the most part on most things, but on this one I was, it went from Quan Incredible to Quan the Incorrigible. But yeah, go check out his channel, makes good content, and also tell him that he's incorrect when it comes to the stuff with Elsie and Justice. But anyway, let's talk about the chapter itself, because Mishima did a really interesting thing, I believe, in just the general setup of this, because I think most people assumed it was going to be like an actual ship thing, like it was primarily going to be a ship instead of something that just had ship details in it. Because between Elsie and Justice, like it legitimately does not seem, at least currently, that there's going to be a future for them, like as a duo. And I'm very serious, at least as of right now, chapter 124, of that being the case. It could change, but the way that I can really just like kind of give my reasoning as to why I don't think they're just gonna like hook up in like 10 chapters, or it's like, yeah, eventually, is if you compare it to Urza and Jalal, because that's the one that obviously people have been comparing it to and whatnot. If you compare it to that, back in the Tower of Heaven, Urza had the chance to kill Jalal. Like, Urza had the full chance before Etherian went off. She had the sword directly to Jalal's throat. She could have stabbed him right there, cut off his head or whatever, and killed him. But she didn't, because she still had feelings for him. And in this, we see what looks to be that, like what looks to be a scene similar to that, but Elsie and Justice both tried to kill each other. Like, it wasn't like one of them tried to kill each other and like still had affections. They both seem to have lingering affections for each other that they, like, were like, oh, maybe there's some hope there, probably just wanting that to kind of like, to happen, but knowing that it couldn't really happen. Because for them, it just seemed like it was like, those lingering, deep-rooted emotions, because I don't really see for them, I don't really see that it would go in a light of anywhere beyond this. Because again, when it came to Urza and Jalal, Urza had a chance to kill him, didn't. Elsie and Justice both had, that opportunity, and both went for the kill. Like, both of them decided right when it was there to stab each other, and then that was it. So, with them right now, I just want to know whether or not, whether or not this is going to expand in a larger sense beyond just like the two specific characters, because we did find out their backstories. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk about, besides, giving Quan a shout out. Like, once again, go check out his channel for good Eden Zero content. When it came to this chapter, it was funny because I was talking to somebody recently, before anybody even says it, or gets a chuckle when I say it. It was about Build King, and obviously, like, people who follow me on Twitter and interacting on Twitter know I've been pushing the Build King agenda. But I was talking to someone recently about like the difference between like an experienced mangaka and more of like, just like a newer one. And one of the things I really liked about the newest chapter of Build King was that the author was able to fit a lot of stuff into one chapter without it feeling overwhelming to the reader. Whereas this chapter, 124, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff all over the place, like between like the stuff with Kree's Justice, Hyoga and Gowan, the stuff with Elsie and Justice, including their backstories and whatnot, like back when they were, it's like, hey, just so you know, Elsie used to be a princess of a big kingdom, and Justice was like some form of prince, or, some form of nobility, and they were gonna get married, kind of like, prearranged marriage, and then Elsie's family was gonna absorb Justice's family's kingdom, kind of thing, again, a political marriage. It's pretty simple just when it comes down to that. And then something happened, like there was like some secrets that are in the government and whatnot that caused them to, Elsie to reveal like what was going on, and then this big war started, and it led to the collapse of their kingdoms. There was a lot of stuff in this, and I wanted to bring it up just because like I did mention like not like earlier this week of like talking about how like not overwhelming the readers with like a ton of content, and in most cases I would look at a chapter like this where it's a huge info dump in like out of nowhere. It's not like we had a ton of like callbacks to smaller stuff that got expanded upon. For the most part, it was stuff that we just had very blind information on. We only knew the base premise. Like again, stuff like Elsie and Justice we only knew that they had like a connection. We didn't know the extent of it or really the details of it. We only had the frame of it. We had none of the inner parts. So like finding that and then the whole interaction between Creed and Victory against Hyoget and Gowan, and their like opinions on like what's going on with Elsie and whatnot. A normal series, I would say like this was a lot. But I have to give Mishima an almost biased pass in this regard of like he's gone out of his way in all of his series that anybody with that eye mark, relating all the way back to his original main character in his Magician one-shot, anybody with that eye mark has had a complicated backstory. All of them have been overly complicated. And if you don't believe me, it's as simple as like if you go back and look at like early Fairy Tail and you try and make sense of like the stuff between Jalal and Mistvagun, like when you like it's super difficult before you get the like Edalus and you get like concrete information to determine that they're two different people. Back when it was very, very vague, it was super confusing. And that's what we're getting in not the exact same story, not even really the same story when you think about it, but just extremely overcomplicated, like compared to any of the stuff right now. Because for the most part, any mysteries in Eden's Zero we still have, or plot lines expanded upon with other characters, it's done at a regular kind of like normal pace. So this was just like we had a little, piece of one spot. We had like even ended with like a little piece that related to Shiki and I think Xenolith. I'm guessing just because they're on Forestra and this weird strange robot was talking about like the gravity and whatnot. We know that Forestra at some like was 1,000 years ago was home to this guy named Xenolith, who was like the greatest ether gear gravity user. So like you had general kind of like expansive information in a couple areas, and then the stuff between Elsie and Justice was just a lot. So I know, like I tried to mention because it was really funny to me because I talked about somebody of like, oh yeah, the mangaka shouldn't overwhelm the reader with like just too much information in one chapter like that. And if it was like any other character, like if we just got all this crazy Poseidon Arrow stuff that came out of nowhere that connected all these other weird things that we kind of didn't really understand, because we know aspects about Elsie and Justice now, we know a lot more details, but we don't know like some more of the specifics, like obviously like what the government was doing and stuff. But you just be like, that was a lot to take in. But if it was anybody other than the iMark people, I would probably just kind of be like, man, Mishima needs to slow down a little bit. But it's consistent with what he's been doing, so I can't really complain. Like anytime like these guys get a complicated backstory. But I did like the chapter itself. Like I thought the chapter itself was really good. I did genuinely really like the interactions between Elsie and Justice, because with them, like Urza and Jalal was like their relationship started out in a very bad place, obviously in the Tower of Heaven as slaves, and then it kind of like it worked into like a much better, more healthy spot now, like as the story progressed. Whereas Elsie and Justice, they started out in like a really good place. They had a prearranged marriage, but they both liked each other. Obviously they were little kids at the time, but still like they clearly had affections for each other and they got along. And then it got really, really violent and aggressive later on. So I'm kind of hoping it stays a blood feud between them, some form of hate that they want to kill each other. It could change, but for the most part, I would like it if it kind of stayed as their enemies. If they died together, like it was kind of done in almost like this combat Romeo and Juliet style, like near the end of the series, I think that would actually be a lot cooler for them. and that's kind of like the tone and style for their characters. Because when I was talking to Quan, I haven't watched his review yet because I wanted to do it after I did mine, because I didn't want to have like, I wanted to wait and get his thoughts after I put mine out there, because I know he wanted to hear what I had to say, and if I listen to his, like, some of his thoughts might, you know, branch over into mine, or, you know, anything in that manner, kind of like probably he wanted to do before he would, I'd say he would do before he watched mine, but I haven't done mine yet. But more in the idea of him not wanting to hear my full explanation until after he's done his review and his honest opinions. Because I kind of got where he was going with this, in the general idea from this fight, as it was, he like kind of compared it to Kylo Ren and Rey from like the Star Wars sequel, and I can kind of understand where he's coming from, because, you know, these guys were enemies. We knew they were enemies, and then like in the middle of their fight, you had like this, you know, obviously this scene, like you had them like kiss, but their moment, for one, it's like different from like the complete start, because unlike Kylo and Rey, there's way more pre-existing content between the relationship of Elsie and Justice before this moment, and on top of that, they're kind of like affectionate kiss here. It seemed more like during their conversation when Elsie's like talking about how, like, you know, what did she say, like it was like, maybe it will engender forgiveness in our hearts, and then Justice kind of mentions that too, and it's like it will do nothing, and they end up going for it. And I think it was like Elsie's reaction and beforehand, and then Justice afterwards when he's like, I knew it would do nothing. To me, their moment was more of like happy lingering memories from their past, of kind of being like, they kind of are still hopeful on those, you know, remnants of a happier life and something they could have had. But then after this, like, they both try to kill each other. Like, it's both a full stab, and it's I don't really see right now, at least, it going in a more romantic light. It seems more that it's just kind of gonna, like I said, battle Romeo and Juliet kind of style. But I'm really interested more to see where this goes, because the stuff with the robot at the end with Shiki was really cool, and I think that's going to be really fun to see at the start of the next chapter. But I really, really genuinely liked the fact that it was made up like it was going to be a similar ship between Elsie and Justice, but it's more of like a ship that could have been that they can't have. And I genuinely think that's just really intriguing for Mishima to do, because I wouldn't have thought he would have taken their ship and turned it in a little bit of a darker scenario like this, because I figured it was going to be more of like they just interact so much, and they have almost like this cat and mouse kind of style relationship, and then maybe like near the end of the series, it's like you have two characters that originally, you know, don't get along and oppose each other, but they probably think about each other so much, and they just have like a chemistry that it ends up kind of working. But here it's like that could have happened, but their hatred of each other, of what happened on their planet and their kingdoms, just overrides that. And I want to see where that plays out in the future, because like Mishima, if he manages to put it in a better way, in like a better light, and then turn it into like a positive ship, I'd be fine with that. I don't want it, like I said, to be in like a Kylo Ren and Rey kind of thing. Like, if they didn't have this, you know, sword stabbing in this scene, and it was just like randomly these two decided to you know, to get affectionate towards each other like this, just cause, I kind of would agree with them. But the fact that it seemed more of like they kind of wanted that to happen, like in the back of their minds and whatnot. But after this, like when they got to it, they knew that they couldn't, and so they just, you know, they decided just to stab each other, and you know, that leading into further parts of their fight. So I genuinely like this chapter. I thought it was pretty good. I can see though where somebody could have a problem with it, but you have to look at Justice and Elsie's reactions and how their words and expressions are put in this chapter, because like, again, the idea of it being a ship to them looks like they're just like, maybe I don't want to, but at the same time, like they're probably thinking about how well they got along, and they're just thinking of happier memories, but they know that those happy memories can't really they can't have them again, or at least not now. They can't really do anything with those. It's more of just what they could have had and then try and end it and then move on. So I trust Mishima, at least on this matter, after this chapter. If there was no stabbing or killing, if it was just like these two fought, we didn't get any context behind the relationship, and then randomly they decided that you know, kiss, I would have been like, what's going on here? Are these guys gonna like ditch their crews and run away together, or you know, what is the detail? But that's not the case, obviously, after seeing this chapter. And I have a good feeling, at least as of right now, that Mishima's not going to just, you know, go ship city on this. I think it's something that he'll kind of like toy with a little bit, but for right now, keep them enemies. It could change though, we'll see. As of right now though, you know, chapter 124, I did enjoy this. I like how he handled it, because it was like he wanted to get people interested in the idea of the ship, and then now you understand why it's like, if you want this ship, go to Urza and Jalal. If you want to see these guys again, if stay in that kind of bloody hunger for murder on each other, stay with Elsie and Justice. That's really kind of just how it's played out right now, at least. So we'll see. Other than that though, comment below, and like I said, go check out Kwan's content. Actually, you know what, instead of any specific comments, like if you just want to comment below, go ahead, but specific comment kind of like questions is, I'd say go ask Kwan some questions. Actually, you know, go in his comments of this new chapter and call Kwan the incorrigible, or Eden Zero Quantent. So just go mess him a little bit, not too mean, just enough that he's like kind of confused that people are popping up in his chat. That is Quan Credible, pretty easy to spell. Like I said, he does Black Clover and Eden Zero stuff. Try to get him to do a little bit more Eden Zero content, but go comment on his videos, go check them out. And other than that though, yeah, thanks everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.